It's no longer just rumor or hearsay. Nintendo Switch 2 is here. Well, at least the first look, and we have a trailer for it. So let's watch, let's react, and let's just dive on into this because the Switch 2 needs no introduction. Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and let's see what Nintendo has cooking up here. This thing has been leaked to high heaven. Look, it's a Switch. You'll never guess. Those are Joy-Cons. Joy-Con boys for life. Okay, someone took a nail filer to it. Okay, we got actual ports this time. Okay. That looked like USB-C. It's a Switch. This time in black. Oh, so it pops out and you don't have to, like, attach it anymore. Thank God. That was kind of annoying to do before. Though I'm normally not a big fan of using Joy-Cons myself, I'll just use the Pro Controller. I mean, it looks like the Switch 2, which is what we expected it to look like, right? Like, this is all fancy and all. And I guess this is that feature that you can use the Joy-Cons as, like, gaming mice for some reason. I don't know why you would use that on a Switch. Maybe it'll have some functionality in, like, a Mario Party game or something. Maybe. Okay, I actually paused it there because I thought that was the end of the trailer. No, we still got some time here. Alright, Nintendo Switch 2. Kind of what I expected it. I'm not upset by that. I think that's the play Nintendo should go for. Just an even better Switch, because the formula works so well. And this must be that new Mario Kart game. It looks very pretty, but it's Mario Kart. It's kind of what you expect it to look like. But still, it does look pretty. Doesn't surprise me they want to launch this with the Switch 2. Plays Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games as well as Nintendo Switch games. There is backwards compatibility. Okay, good. So it seems to use the same cartridge. Nintendo Switch 2 plays both physical and digital Nintendo Switch games. Certain Nintendo Switch games may not be supported on or fully compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. Details will be shared on the Nintendo website at a later date. I wonder if that's mainly just for certain games that really hyper-fixated on the specific utilization of Joy-Cons or technology in the Switch, and it may not go one for one for Switch 2. Maybe something like 1-2 Switch. I imagine the essentials, though, are going to work on the Switch 2, because it would be ludicrous, if not just stupid, for it not to. Right? I imagine Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, the Xenoblade games, the Mario games, I imagine those, mostly, will work on Switch 2. Interesting. It also... If this is to scale here, yeah, if, like, this is to scale, it does seem as if the Switch 2 is bigger. I'm a fan of that. I prefer bigger consoles like this. I prefer a bigger screen. I prefer bigger buttons. Joy-Cons were too small for me. Hopefully, these will be a bit more comfortable in my hand. They look nicer as well to me. I like the little color outline for the analog sticks. I quite like it. What else do we have? Yes, we have... They're smart to do this on the 2nd of April, not the 1st of April, because the April Fool's jokes would have been immaculate. Kind of wishing they had done that now that I think about it. But the fact they're announcing a new Mario Kart game for Switch 2, and, like, that's the first game they show off for this thing, does not particularly surprise me just because of how big of an IP Mario Kart is. Like, this game by itself, with no further details or announcements, will ship consoles for the Switch 2. Absolutely, 100%. First thing I'm noticing here, so we have an extra button on the right Joy-Con down here. Not entirely sure what the point of that button is, but I imagine it'll have some functionality. Maybe like an amiibo thing, who knows? I don't really know. Don't want to particularly speculate. Yeah, it seems as if this element, instead of, like, having to attach it manually and be a separate component, just pops out of the Joy-Con when it's not being plugged into the actual dock or, you know, the Switch itself. Hopefully it feels better in the hand. Hopefully... I imagine it's going to be fine, right? Like, I'm not too particularly worried about the structural stability of this thing. Now, I know there'll be some people that go like, oh, Nintendo's really known for having gimmick consoles, why are they doing a Switch too? I think, to me, The reason they're doing a Switch 2 is rather obvious because the Switch itself sold so incredibly well, and instead of trying to just jump ship to another gimmick for no particular reason, you hone in on this idea, on this architecture, on this formula, because it is a working architecture, it's a working formula. Mobile gaming is exploding in recent years, and gaming on the go is a massive boon for a lot of people. May not be for you, but for a lot of people out there, they like having that hybridization model for the Switch. Being able to play at home like a traditional console, or being able to take it on the go rather seamlessly. That is a massive, massive benefit for the Switch for a lot of people out there. It makes sense to me that in a day, in an era where convenience reigns supreme, the console that gives you the most convenience dominates. That just makes sense to me naturally, alongside the fact the Switch was the most accessible console in the market by price point for the longest time. Like, that also makes sense. You have technology that allows players to play as they want to play, whether that's at home or on the move, and also being affordable compared to a lot of the competition out there with a plethora of games available only on the Switch. That is a powerful incentive for a lot of people, and that's what gravitated a lot of people, ranging from hardcore players to even casual players, and especially casual players, to the Switch to begin with. So I think jumping ship and avoiding that idea just for the sake of trying something new and different is foolhardy, and doesn't really make any strong business sense. It was always funny to me that people pushed back on the idea of them calling it the Switch 2 when it seemed fairly obvious to me, because it was always going to be down between the Super Switch, going off of history and tradition back to the days of the SNES for the Nintendo, or it's going to be called the Switch 2, because you don't want to create that confusion, because there's a lot of people out there that are just not knowledgeable about gaming. Nothing wrong with that, but when you have a lot of people out there that just want to get a console for their family or whatever, and they see something like the Wii U, some people will naturally think that's just another version of the Wii and not a whole new console, even though it looks completely different. They just are not knowledgeable about the market. And calling it the Switch 2 while not being particularly creative or fun makes sense. And again, at the end of the day, it's a plastic box by a corporation. I'm not going to particularly act as if I have to swear allegiance to the thing. I want to see what this does. I want to see the games that it brings to the table. I want to see the power level behind it. Now, since we've seen this design in various leaks before, I imagine some of those leaks about the actual power level to the Switch 2 probably have some gravity behind them. I would personally argue that if it's anywhere between a PS4 Pro and an Xbox Series S, that's more than enough for me. I just want games to run at a consistent 60 FPS if they're developed and published by Nintendo. If they're first-party titles for Nintendo, I want those games to run at 60 FPS baseline, no excuses. I want that to at least be an option. You provide that to me, I'm already gonna like the console. Nintendo tends to make good and compelling games that have variety and different levels of depth to them. And while there's a lot of Nintendo franchises out there that don't particularly grab my interest, there are some that really do. I love Zelda and I love Xenoblade. If this thing can run those games but at better frame rates or even better resolutions, I'm all for it. And we can see with the dock being slightly different in design, allowing you to see more of the screen. It's a nice little touch, doesn't really, again, move the needle for me. I can't imagine it'd be too much functionality other than just displaying like the power level or the time when it's just in a rested position on the dock or whatever. Doesn't particularly move the needle for me, but I kind of like the visual design of this thing. Being a bit, selfish here, I would personally like a white version of the Switch 2 because my setup is mostly white. But again, low on my priority list here. Okay, now I'm gonna make a reference here, and has anyone played Crash 3 Warped? Because this reminds me of one of the driving levels, if that makes sense. Mainly with this building here. That or a Ride to Hell Retribution. I don't think Nintendo wants that comparison. Alright, there's a lot of elements to the Switch 2 that immediately already intrigue me more than, say, the basic Switch. The size of the console does seem to be bigger. Again, if this image is to scale, I prefer a bigger console, I prefer a bigger screen, I prefer bigger controllers. That appeals to me more than the Switch. Already a good mark in my book. Backwards compatibility, I imagine it's just a couple of specific games we'll probably find out later on. So I'll hold and reserve judgment for then, but I'm going to go on the assumption that most of the games are going to be backwards compatible. Love that, good. I think the Switch 2 had to have that functionality, especially in an age where a lot of people are driving up and really honing in on their digital library of games. It's a good way to incentivize people to ease people into the next console because they already have all their games and they just transfer over. Certain Nintendo Switch games may not be supported on or fully compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. I'll be interested to find out what that specifically means. It sounds like an odd mini-game in the occasional, like, one-off game to me. That's what that sounds like, then just covering themselves there. I will be very curious to find out if the Switch 2 cartridges are the exact same style as Nintendo Switch. I know Switch 2 can run physical cartridges from the Switch, but it could be like a DS situation where it had like the cartridge system for the DS, but also one for the Game Boy ones. I'll be interested to find out. I imagine it's going to be the same cartridge type, but just something to keep an eye out for, I guess. Now, all eyes will be on that date, which is quite far away here, April 2nd, unless we're using day, month, year time, which I don't think we are here. So, April 2nd, 2025 will be the day of the Nintendo Direct for Nintendo Switch 2. That's when I imagine we'll get a lot of the actual game announcements for the Switch 2. I know Jason Schreier on Twitter talked about how this gives third-party developers opportunities to announce that they're going to be coming out for the Switch 2. Which makes a lot of sense for me, because we're already having games and developers have to advertise that they were coming out on Nintendo, and they couldn't say Nintendo Switch 2 because it wasn't announced yet. This gives them plenty of opportunity and time now to actually announce that they're going to be coming out on the Switch 2. That was one of the biggest concerns with the Switch for the longest time, was third-party support. It had some, but for other games, it was rather lackluster, or just, they didn't run well on the Switch for the most part. Be very curious to see how they tend to handle and perform on the Switch 2. Again, we just have to wait for more information in regards to that. This does kind of feel a bit weird from Nintendo, just the whole way they're going about doing this. It does feel as if this was getting so leaked and all the information was going out there, and Nintendo just wanted to get out ahead of it. To some degree, maybe that's a bit conspiratorial, and it's just they want to give third-party developers a time now to announce for it. Maybe it's some combination of the two factors. It does feel kind of weird that they're announcing it now, and we're not going to get the actual Direct for this thing until April, which is still months away. And you got to imagine they're not going to shadow drop the console in April alongside this Direct. That would be a bit foolish to me. So probably like 6 to 12 months out from the actual console coming out. If we're following the Switch from back then, that was about a 6-month window from announcement to release. So June makes a bit of sense. So you have this Direct roughly halfway between now and the release date of the Switch 2. Announce the games then. Then after the second half, the console comes out, probably in like June, something like that. And we get either a late spring or an early summer release date for the Switch 2. That makes a lot of sense to me. The timing does kind of line up for that. Nintendo would obviously want to have some time to be able to hype this thing up and market it appropriately and get the word out there about the Switch 2. And look, I'm a very simple guy. If I can play my Xenoblade games and I can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom at 60 FPS on this thing, I don't even need resolution upgrades. If that happens, that's cool. But if it just runs better and performs better, I'm already on board. But brothers and sisters and everybody, let's just hold hands and rejoice in celebration that the era of Switch 2 rumors is finally over. Finally! Our inboxes, our timelines won't be inundated every week with this crap trending anymore. Hopefully, you know, like in before we start getting leaks about the Switch 3. Wait, do you all think they would call it the Nintendo Switch 3D? Because that would be kind of funny. But yeah, that's kind of all we have about the Switch 2, to my knowledge right now. Okay, honestly, screw the Switch 2. This is the real Nintendo news for today. Your adventure in Donkey Kong Country Returns HD begins tomorrow? Dude. Who needs the Switch 2? We already have what we need. Let's be fair here. But with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Nintendo Switch 2. Do you like the way it looks? What games are you most excited to see come out for it? What series of Nintendo lore and history, I guess, would you like to see make a return for the Switch 2's life cycle? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Until we meet again!